This story is about son Changming, a 15-year-old traveler. Today the young man had another day of struggle for life for which the young man was ready. Our hero came to this world 3 years ago. As a matter of routine, a traveler like him should receive a gift of fate. Events 3 years ago. There is a strange natural phenomenon here. Divine beasts come to this world. Jihu, that is, the white tiger, fell into the area of the western mountain range in the kingdom of Qin. The ruler of Qin personally went to the mountains to meet the tiger and escort him to the capital of Shenyang. After making him the protector of the country for 3 years, Jihu and the ruler of Qin destroyed 6 states and united most of the mountain ranges. Jihu, that is, the red bird, fell in the area of the southern wasteland, where the Dazhao sect rules. Wu Kui, a disciple follower of the Dazhao sect, accidentally met Jihu during training. 3 years later, Wu Zetian came and seized the place of the head of the clan. Immediately he went through the 19 sects of the southern wasteland and sowed fear of the Dazhao sect. It became the most powerful in the area. But no one knew that on that day, not 2 creatures fell from the sky, but 3. It's just a loach, a small fish that our hero held in his hands. After releasing her into the river, the young man asked her to live a full life. When our hero saw the fish, he thought it was a divine beast and signed a spiritual contract with it. But over the past 3 years, apart from the fact that the soul of a young man could move into the body of a fish and share his feelings with him, the hero did not find any abilities in him. There was nothing terrible for the young man, and even worse, if the fish did not have any special abilities, our hero decided that he would try to survive. Son Changming did not give up even on pain of death. At that moment, our hero saw that the loach began to swim very far and asked him not to do it, because he could freeze to death at such a depth. But there was something ahead, and our hero saw the pearls. As soon as the guys thought that they were lucky, the shells with pearls immediately closed, and behind them was a flock of piranhas that wanted to eat them. Therefore, the guys had to get out of that place urgently. Fortunately, it was successful, and our hero was able to return home alive. The girl with a smile on her face heard the footsteps, realized that her brother had returned and ran to meet him. Opening the door, she saw her brother, and because of the long wait, she hit him right in the stomach, which caused the young man to bleed, and he asked his sister to calm down, because he found something. After showing the girl what he had in his hands, she realized that the young man had found the pearl today. This is enough to pay tomorrow's life tax. The girl with shining eyes looked at the pearl in front of her. Tonight they will be able to eat everything they have saved before. The guys still have potatoes, carrots, and some rice. And having made this dish, the guys wished each other a pleasant appetite. But the young man just watched his sister eat. The girl could not eat alone and asked her brother to eat too. But the hero refused, referring to the fact that he ate when he was on the street. But the sister was persistent, and then the guy decided to eat a bowl of rice. After all, the girl heard her brother's stomach growling and knew that he was lying to her. Looking at the loach, the sister was surprised that the little fish was eating a poisonous piranha. My brother assured me that it was not scary for the fish, and in order to live, he needed to eat at least something. So the guys all sat together and enjoyed their evening. Everyone could eat at least a little of what they had. Evening came, and our hero went to bed. That night, the young man could not sleep properly. He was very cold, because he was bitten by a poisonous fish when he took out a pearl from the bottom of the river. Therefore, he was shivering. The guy told himself that he had to hold on. He swore to himself that one day he would take his sister away from this lousy place, and they would not live worse than dogs and pigs. After all, the guys slept near a makeshift fireplace on a mat, covered themselves with something similar to a blanket. While the guys were sleeping, the bindweed noticed how something terrible was approaching their house, and when he saw the monster, he immediately activated his power and jumped on the young man's chest. A bright warm light began to emanate from the hero, and our hero connected with the fish. The monster saw this and walked away. The next day, the young man woke up full of energy and could not understand what had happened to him, because last night he had also been poisoned. Looking at the fish, he thought that it was all thanks to the loach. Based on the experience of reading the young men's novels, he thought that after 3 years his abilities had finally awakened. Now the young man lived in the Great Wu Kingdom, in a village called Jihu, the poorest place in the whole kingdom. All the villagers are poor. They had no choice but to live here because of the harsh laws of the kingdom. The village looked small and fragile. The inhabitants were the same. The young man who was standing not far from our hero was beckoning the guy to him. Last night, the monster reappeared and dealt with 2 families, a friend of our hero reported. The hero thought to himself that in addition to the poor, there were monsters in the village of Jihu that periodically appeared here. He and his sister were lucky that they were able to survive another night. The main reason for the appearance of monsters here is a large hill at the foot of the village. According to the village elders, it was there that the tomb of the ancient demonic god was located. Descendants of demonic gods come here at night to pay homage to their ancestors. For the young man, it was like the gates of hell. Then someone hammered on a metal shield, and all the villagers turned around, hearing the ringing throughout the village. Our heroes interrupted their conversation and also turned around at the ringing. They were tax collectors, then announced that it was time to pay the life tax, so everyone had to come up and pay. Due to environmental problems, the village could not grow food. Therefore, residents had to risk their lives to survive by collecting pearls. At this moment, when the hero was thinking about the terrible share that fell to his fate, he was watching a man who did not have time to collect the necessary amount, but asked for food from the collectors. The same were unhappy that the man could not pay his tax, but still wanted to get food. Approaching Sun, the tax collectors said that it was time for him to pay. Then our hero showed them a pearl that he found yesterday in the river. All the collectors were surprised by the good color and excellent material of the pearl. This pearl cost at least 4 bags of grain. But then one of the collectors decided that the color, in fact, was not so good, so the pearl cost only 1 bag of grain. After giving the young man a bag of grain, they went on. But our hero could not contain his emotions and rudely expressed himself towards the collectors, thereby angering them. Raising his hand at the young man, one of the collectors thought he could teach him a lesson. But the guy fought back, without expecting it, how strong his body was. Bouncing back from the blow, the collector was beside himself with anger, and his hand was burning with pain. Then a friend of our hero arrived and, bending over the young man, asked the gentleman to excuse this child and not to waste his precious time on him. The collectors thought that the young man wanted to rebel against them, and therefore our hero's friend asked baby Sun to play along with him. Because if something happens to the young man, what will happen to his sister? Then one of the collectors also tried to calm the gentleman from his side, saying that they would lose money if they spoiled relations with these villagers. And they asked the chief not to look for trouble with the residents. So they left. Sun looked at his hands and thought about the toothpick who ate a piranha last night, and that after that the young man felt that he was full of energy. It seemed that this somehow affected our hero. Then the guy rushed to the river holding a bindweed in his hand. When he reached the river, the guy launched the toothpick into the river so that he could show what he could do. As soon as the fish dived into the water, and the young man realized that while the toothfish was feeding, the energy would be transferred to his body. It was late in the evening. Our hero was looking at the fish that was lying on the ground and beating his tail. For such a small size, the young man did not expect that he would be able to eat so much. Until now, our hero could not believe that his pet had swallowed so much. The fish grew in size, and the hero felt that the more the loach ate, the more energy got into Ching's body. And just as he dragged the fish home, thinking that he would get from his sister, something lit up in front of him and fell to the ground. The hero saw the guys training in the forest. It looked strange that a group of warriors were improving in the village. One of them felt someone else's presence and voiced his feelings, but perhaps it was because of Evil Kai, and that's why they were here. The girls who were next to the young man asked to return, to which he said that the girls could go if they were so scared. The young man could not understand what the cultivators were doing in the village of Jihu when the main guy noticed him and attacked our hero, who was hiding in the bushes and watching everything from the side. Then seeing the guy, the leader realized that it was just a redneck. Our hero talked out loud about the fact that the attack was dangerous and a little more and the guy would have killed our hero. At that moment, one of the cultivators turned to the young man and asked our hero if he knew how to get to the scorched hill. The hero heard about such a hill for the first time. He thought to himself that there was another batch of corpses in front of him. The leader also said that they should not have protected all these worthless mortals from evil spirits in the future, let them protect themselves. And it's like asking a blind man for directions. How could a stupid redneck know where the hill is? The young man, having heard what the self-cultivator, the leader, said about him, was dissatisfied with his compliments. Then the hero decided to check with the others whether they had talked about that hill on the mountain behind their village and pointed his finger in the direction of the hill. One of the young men confirmed that this was the place they needed and asked the hero if he had gone there. Sun replied that he had never been there, because the village elders say that this place is one big grave where immortal spirits are buried. From everyone who went there, there weren't even any bones left. The guys smiled and looking at our hero said that the place was not bad at all. Our hero asked the guys not to go there in any case. The elders said that no one had ever returned from there alive. The improving guys thanked the guy for the information and, leaving, said that it no longer concerned him and therefore he had to get out of the forest as soon as possible. One of the guys shouted that their elders just wanted commoners like him to believe in all these fairy tales. The young man did not take them seriously, deciding that this was another gang of daredevils seeking to be reborn. Since they didn't want to listen to him, they could rest there in peace. The leader of the cultivators asked not to believe all these inventions of the hillbillies and asked to leave here all the artifacts that were rarely used by all members of their team. Thanks to the wards, evil spirits will not touch them, so they left all their valuables in the forest. Our hero watched the whole team from behind the stone and continued to say that what he was saying was completely true. The young man, having launched a bindweed into the barrier, said that one way or another the team of cultivators would not return alive, only it was more profitable for him. The vine took things from the barrier, which did not stop our hero. Opening the package, the young man saw a lot of all sorts of different objects. He saw good things, but he was very sorry that he could not sell them in the village. A knife fell out of the bag and the vine dragged it away, and our hero wanted to leave these items and use them when he left the village. But then View aided and thereby very surprised our hero, who wanted to defend himself with it. Asking the toothpick if he was okay, the fish did not feel very well, and our hero asked him to spit out the knife and asked him not to eat everything in a row. Looking at the toothpick, our hero asked if he really ate the knife that our hero had just held in his hands. But it turned out that the toothpick was able to turn garbage into treasures. Looking at the knife that he spat out, after which he tried to cut something with it and it turned out the first time. After many attempts, son Changming discovered that he could not turn the toothpick into a treasure production workshop. Holding the last treasure in his hands, he threw it to the bindweed and asked them to eat it. This time the warm sweat was much stronger. Our hero felt as if he was in the oven. The young man thought that the light was like an unfinished symbol. Then the toothpick began to glow with a different light, and after that the young man saw that the fish had grown up and changed. Our hero felt how he became stronger together with the toothpick. Now they will be able to climb into more dangerous places underwater. The next day, our hero left home early, saying goodbye to his sister, while the girl asked her brother to return early. The young man ran to the lake and was ready to go forward with the toothfish and launched the fish into the water. To try out your new powers and the powers of your friend. With the help of the current force, the toothpick will be able to protect himself in the water. At this moment our hero used the transfer of the soul into the body of the toothpick, so he could observe everything. By transferring the soul into his body, it will be easier for them to find pearls in the river. The young man had been searching for pearls since he was 10 years old, so he immediately caught the guy's eye. After all, there are not only poor people in the village, but also dangerous criminals sentenced to death, so the heroes needed to earn. While Nibbler was swimming in the river and looking for pearls, our hero was talking about money and power that began to appear. Then they saw bone pearls. They looked much more valuable than ordinary pearls. The fish reacted strangely. Our hero did not understand such a reaction, but it turned out that it was a trap. There was a fish behind them, and the pearls were part of it. But it turned out that this demon had a mind, and the fish was not like the one who hunted. She was swimming in one circle, as if she was hiding something. It wasn't like hunting. Our heroes decided to watch her, and the fish began to swim away. Zubastic quickly began to dig out what she was guarding and tried to pick up faster. But then the toothpick was noticed, and the young man asked him to swim away from there. Noticing the crevice, the toothfish swam on the orders of our hero and hid from the fish. The fish got angry at the toothpick. It looked like it had intelligence. She tried to eat a toothpick, but it didn't work out. At that moment, the toothfish swam out of the other exit. It worked perfectly, and our hero asked the fish to swim back to him. Then a giant double-headed eel began to attack the fish, which twisted the toothpick. The hero rushed to the toothpick to save him from the eel. The eel was holding the toothpick and wanted to eat it already, but the hero arrived in time and grabbing the eel tried to stab him with a dagger. But the eel grabbed the guy and started pulling him to the bottom, when suddenly the toothpick bit him by the tail, and then by the neck. Our young man praised the toothpick for his good work and cut the eel and swam to land. The eel and our hero were lying on the ground, and the toothpick tried to eat him. Sun reached out to the loach and said that he could have hurt himself even more. The hero already thought that he had lost his fish. The bindweed already thought that the young man began to feel sorry for him. But the guy, reaching for the toothpick, said that if the bindweed could not fight, then it was not necessary to climb. The young man swore at the fish for the fact that she only wanted to eat, and the bindweed did not think about his life. Looking at the vine, the guy saw that his wounds healed quickly. The young man was really worried about his pet, because their lives were tightly connected. Taking the eel home, the guys decided to return. It was already evening and the sun was setting in the clouds. The young man was happy with the day, despite the danger that awaited him in the vine today. When he came home, the hero ran into a man who was very weak and throwing him an eel. He bowed strongly and thanked the young man for the dinner that was provided to him. Recently, our hero noticed that something was wrong. A group of cultivators went to the hill again and they were also bold and brave. The hero decided that he would not even try to dissuade them. At this moment, the young man was called by a man in armor. The hero did not notice him passing by. Turning around, the young man asked the man what he wanted from him. Then he asked him not to be afraid because he just wanted to find out the way. Then our hero advised to contact any resident of the village who could tell the stranger the way. But then the man, looking at Sun, said that he could not turn to anyone, because any villager did not have a spiritual strength like our hero. Attached to the young man, the man asked the name of our hero, and Sun could not understand who this stranger was and how he knew that the young man possessed spiritual power. Thinking about the cultivators who usually neglected the lives of mortals, the hero decided that the man could be dangerous and grabbed the knife on his belt. The man smiled at the young man and asked him not to be so nervous. He just didn't expect to meet a person who awakened spiritual power in such a remote place. It was just curiosity on his part. The man smiled and rubbed the back of his head, saying that he did not want to frighten the young man. And then I asked him if the guy knew where the burnt hill was. The young man heard about the hill again and showed the stranger where it was, explaining that there was a huge hill behind the village, most likely about which the stranger asked him. Thanking the young man and waving to him, the man moved in that direction. Our hero was thinking about himself about a man who had gone to certain death again. But stopping, the man decided to ask if our hero had studied with anyone. Then Sun said that he was born here and not in a sect. The man regretted it because the guy had a promising talent. And thanking the young man for his help, he threw him a bag. He didn't need it, and the guy had a big heart. The hero wanted to stop the man because he could no longer return. But he only went his own way, waving to our hero. Evening came, and the young man returned home to his sister, who was dying of hunger. When she saw her brother, she attacked him with her fists, because he was late again, and called him rather to the table. Having asked the young man to eat quickly, he sat and looked at the stone that he got today from the bottom of the river, because it was unremarkable, but the monster that guarded it cared a lot about this thing. And the hero decided to hide this artifact for now. After the hidden artifact, the young man decided to see what was in the bag that his uncle handed him. Taking out a dufan, which was a two-handed saber in China, he saw a name. Perhaps it was the name of this man. But our hero did not know this because he did not introduce himself to him. The young man, looking at the bag, decided to check what else was hidden in it. Opening the bag, the hero took out 3 bottles of pills, a whole set of armor, Jianmadao, and a flying sword. These were all excellent artifacts. The sister was angry at her brother for not eating at all and said that if he did not eat, she would eat everything herself, while the young man, watching his sister eat rice, asked her not to be angry with him. Later, he tried to feed the artifacts to the loach again. As soon as he put the knife in his mouth, he asked the loach to spit it out because it was not food. But the fish lit up with a bright light after swallowing the artifact that the young man gave her, and then spat it out far beyond the house. The balls that the bindweed spat out were just like armor-piercing shells. Besides, they were replenishable. And the hero wondered if this was really a new skill of the toothpick. And the hero had an idea. In another place late at night, in an estate that was shrouded in an ominous fog, a girl was walking towards him, who was obviously expected there, because the light was on in the house. A man with a strange hand wrapped in rags was waiting for a girl who came to him and was very glad to see her. The girl came into the house. The young man who met her and asked the girl not to be sad, because it was he who asked Kyan who to lock him up here to avoid the deaths of innocents because of his enchanted hand. The girl asked for how long he asked to lock himself up here, but the brother did not know, perhaps for 3 days, or maybe for 3 years, or maybe for life. Looking at the girl, the young man asked what she wanted. The sister came to say goodbye, because she could not accumulate Kai and she would have to improve because of this in the outside world. The young man said Ding Bafu, once a talented celestial, is still just as arrogant. Still, it was not very pleasant to look at how her contemporaries surpassed her. The brother, after all his words, looked at his sister and asked her to be careful, because the world was not safe at all. Meanwhile, our hero was at the river again. Our hero turned to the toothpick, because today they were obliged to get rid of this huge fish that they saw last time. Seeing the same fish jumping out of the water, the young man asked the toothpick to use the last learned technique and attacking the fish with balls. The loach defeated her. It was easy. After the guys defeated the fish, our hero took her pearls and offered to eat the meat to the toothpick. After eating, the young man fed Uncle Dongfeng's pill to the loach, and after eating it, the loach lay nearby, and our hero began to concentrate. This time it was completely different. The warm flow of the river seemed to wander in his stomach without stopping. At that moment, the hero opened his eyes and saw the mark that appeared on his torso. Evening came and the time flew by quite imperceptibly. The hero stretched after training and thought that strange symbols had appeared on his left chest before, and now this mark on his stomach. The young man was trying to understand what was happening to his body and to himself. Then he thought about the fact that he knew nothing about the division of borders in this world, and taking his fish went home. When the hero went home, he thought about how he would leave the village and find a mentor, and the hero also thought about how it would be nice to get into the sect with the sisters. And at this time, a sister flew over the village and suddenly her knife flew away from her unnoticed. The young man saw that something was falling on top of him, and it was a girl who asked the guy to move away. But our hero, before he could do it, did not understand what was happening, and the girl fell right on top of him. Rubbing her head, the girl did not expect that it would hurt so much and did not think that her sword would fail. But then noticing the young man under her that he was already ready to give up, she apologized to him greatly. The girl said that there was a misunderstanding as soon as the young man came to himself, so he asked her not to apologize anymore and said that he would go his own way. The girl tried to stop the departing young man and said that she was in the service of the royal court. She needed to know something. The hero asked what she needed, then pointing her finger to the side behind the young man, the girl asked if there was a scorched hill. The wanderer thought to herself that, as it turned out, there was a dense accumulation of harmful kai in the vicinity of the scorched hill. It was too dangerous and frivolous to go there. Remembering the young man behind her, she thought that because of this hill, the villagers must have been weak and emaciated. Why then this young man looked so healthy, she could not understand. Our hero did not understand why the girl looked at him like that, and she asked for his hand. Sun looked at her with surprise and thought to himself that the girl was not okay, and apologized, because he did not understand her. But she grabbed his hand and asked him to give it quickly. Touching the guy's hand, he felt a strange sensation. It was pain from the girl's touch. Pushing back her hand, the guy reported that the girl started first, so she should not have accused him of stupidity. The girl looked at him and thought to herself about how strong Genjin Kai the young man had. After asking how old he was, she got the answer at 15. Continuing to look at the young man, the girl thought that he was a year younger than her, but he was already accumulating the power of symbols. Moreover, the rare Genjin Kai, which gives an advantage in battle, all this was very strange for her. She apologized, but the young man was about to leave again, then the girl stopped him again. Standing in front of the hero, a new acquaintance introduced herself as Yun Nyingyi. She was an official of the Department of State Affairs of the Wu Kingdom. Yun was doing research on strange harmful kai in the vicinity of the hill. The young man was surprised to hear this. The same was proud after what she said to the guy. The young man said that it was getting dark in these parts very quickly, so the girl would have to stay somewhere for the night. Otherwise all sorts of evil spirits would come out at night. The harmful kai was too thick, so she couldn't go anywhere anyway. After asking the girl where she would live, she showed him a strange object in her hands and replied that she was here, pointing to this object. Throwing a small object out of his hands and shouting appear, a house appeared in front of the guys. The young man was very surprised that the house appeared from the capsule. It was very high tech. The girl, looking at the reaction of the young man, asked if he wanted to go inside, but our hero, seeing that it was already getting dark, apologized to the girl and said that it was time for him. He still told the girl that he did not advise her to sleep in the house. It was better to dig a hole for sleeping, so it would be safer. The girl, looking at the guy, thought about the pit for sleeping, and it seemed to her absolute nonsense. The hero left and Yun was left alone. Besides the fact that she needed to make a breakthrough and accumulate the power of symbols, she needed to study the source of the harmful kai. But she didn't know how to conduct research when the whole neighborhood was destroyed by this energy. But then she remembered Sun, whom she met, and realized that this energy had no effect on the guy. Then she realized that she had forgotten to ask his name. The girl talked about today's meeting and thought that the young man behaved quite strangely, said something about evil spirits and about a pit for sleeping. Then, in her reasoning, she heard a strange sound. A monster was approaching her house. Opening the window and seeing a huge monster, she was surprised, because that rhinestone destroyed the pile in which she was sleeping. She managed to jump out at the last moment. The young man returned home, greeting Xiao Yan, his little sister. The girl ran to him as fast as she could, and hugging her brother, the girl asked to go with her to the table, asking her brother why he was going so slowly. After dinner, our hero thought again, and the girl went to wash the dishes. The little bindweed eats more and more, only half of all the pills remained. The young man realized that he could not feed the fish with armor and swords. Holding food in his hand, it was all he had left for Nibbler, and after eating it, the fish gave its strength directly into the consciousness of our hero. 3 parts: the technique of the spiritual principle, binding the spirit, attracting the spirit, harnessing the spirit, the art of witchcraft relating to spirits of various kinds. The young man realized that while the vine was growing with the help of suitable techniques, our hero was learning. The young man was happy about it and the fish too. Evening came and today was the day when you need to pay the tax on life. Holding 2 pearls in his hands, the hero decided that it was time to exchange them for meat for Dazhao. When he came to the place where his sister's house was, he saw that there was nothing left of the house. There were only ruins, and the hero wondered if the girl was still alive. And I thought that everything in life depended only on luck. Then someone called him from above, and the young man saw Yun, who was sitting on a tree branch in one night attire. Embarrassed, she asked the guy if he had any clothes with him, because her house was destroyed yesterday, and she thought she wouldn't have time to escape. Looking at her, the guy was embarrassed, but after getting hit in the face, he immediately woke up and apologized to the girl, giving her a cape. After getting dressed, Yun looked at the young man and thanked him, asking his name, because yesterday he did not introduce himself to her. The guy introduced himself as son Changming and smiled at the girl. When Yun came to her senses, she asked what the young man was doing so early at the entrance to the village. Then the guy told her that today he had to pay the life tax. Harmful Kai is destroying the village of Jihu, so residents can earn a living only by pearl fishing. Local authorities announced the date of tax collection. Only then residents can get food. And looking at the village, the hero saw the authorities, showing the girl to them. She said that since this was the case, they could talk later, and the girl decided to hide for now because she was dressed inappropriately. Tax collectors walked through the village and announced that the people should pay taxes sooner. Everyone was unhappy that they were being sent to this village, because it was very far away, and there was nothing to cook on. But one of the collectors told the boss that things had been very bad lately. Everyone got in line to present their tribute to them. Then the boss and the crowd saw our hero and asked everyone to move away to kill the young man. Everyone dispersed, and our hero was left standing alone in the middle of the square, where the tax was collected from everyone. From the side, Yun watched him from the bushes, thinking about what the head of the tax collection was up to. The boss looked at the young man and said that they were told to take a deposit from that boy. The young man gave the tax collectors his pearls that he had collected earlier, and the tax collectors decided that these bone pearls were very good, but told the hero that he was entitled to only 1 bag of grain for 1 pearl. All the villagers were surprised by the situation that was happening. The young man was angry because he had given 2 pearls to the tax collector, and now he asked them to return them, since he offered him only 2 bags of grain. Then the boss asked the brat if he wanted to die from slandering him. Yun watched this from the sidelines and thought about how the lower governing bodies of the Wu Kingdom were so rotten. The young man told the boss that he had to have a hard job in the county administration, since they had to come to this village. The young man felt sorry for the tax collectors, and he offered not to quarrel if, in his opinion, the villagers were so pathetic. Then, unable to stand it, the boss ran to attack our hero with a sword in his hands. Our hero dodged the attack and rebuffed the boss. Everyone rushed to attack the young man, seeing how brave he was, who came out against them. Then the young man saw unusual chains and realized that the attendants used magical weapons. Surprised, the young man thought about whether it was possible for them to use such weapons. The next moment, having already attacked one of the servants, the hero overcame him. The villagers did not understand where the young man had such strength. The next moment, the boss ordered the young man to be killed, and then Yun entered the game, introducing herself as an official of the Department of State Affairs Management and ordered to lay down her arms. As officials of the kingdom, they broke the law by taking advantage of their position, and the girl ordered them to get out of the village. Seeing the authorities, they quickly gathered, and the girl, using her own strength, took all the food from the cart that was intended for residents. Yun, addressing the villagers, apologized for what had happened on behalf of the government and gave all the bags of grain as compensation. The villagers were happy. The girl, coming up to the hero, apologized for all this. The guy politely answered her that it was not her problems and said that the Department of State Affairs Management had a very high reputation. The girl, with her nose in the air, said that their uniform was a pass, then pointing to her robe, the hero asked if it was a pass, and then she realized that she would have to report on giving orders without a uniform. Our hero, who was sitting next to her, said that he would gladly inform on her for beating, because for every joke he made, The girl mercilessly beat him. Taking off on her sword, Yun said that she needed to return to the department and she would return the cape to the young man later. The hero, watching as the girl flew away on the sword, thought that she had no experience in communicating with people, how she managed to live up to this point. At this they said goodbye and our hero, seeing her off with his eyes, thought that everything had not ended so badly after a fight with tax collectors. Trying on Yun's uniform, I thought about how she had disgraced herself in front of the entire department and how she could leave without her. Catching myself on the wrong thoughts, I decided to get down to business, thinking that there was harmful Kai in the village and she couldn't leave it like that, because it was too dangerous. It should be understood that malicious Kai is the enemy of all monarchs number one. Once in the body, it will not have any effect at first. The monk will not even feel anything himself, but it will always break through during cultivation at the most critical moment. The mentor's sister practiced the enchanted hand technique and at the critical moment, the dark energy burst out. It can only be suppressed, but not eliminated. The girl knew that she had to find out the secret of the village of Jihu, find a way to cope with the harmful Kai and cure her sister. Yun decided that she would have to start with the young man she met. He practiced a lot despite the dark Kai. Either the guy owned some techniques or there was a master behind him. Yun, showing her warrant to the tax collectors, said that she was taking the village of Jihu under her responsibility. She needed a sign with the order of the local government. She decided to use her position to get closer to the hero. Sun again explored the bottom of the river with toothpick. A threat suddenly loomed behind them. It was a new opponent and the guy shouted to the fish that they would definitely cope with him. And attacking the enemy, the heroes defeated him. However, after swimming to land, our hero said that the toothpick scared him very much. But the harvest this time was very good. And Sun's seal increased in size after this fight. Although he did not understand what to do with it, the hero was very happy. Looking at Nibbler, he thought that they must have become stronger. Zubastic also behaved as if he felt bad, but the guy realized that he just ate too much. After looking at the shield from the enemy, the young man decided to test its strength with a bone knife, and after trying to pierce the shield, he could not do anything with it. Then the young man decided that it was a good thing. In case of danger, the young man could hide behind this shield like a turtle that cowardly hides its head in its shell. But deciding that it would be useful to Sun in battle, our hero decided to put the shell in a bag and go home after a successful hunt that brought him such attributes. Looking at the toothpick, the young man saw that the fish was pointing at something and dived after her into the cave. Then they saw the structures. It was all like what people had built, and in front of them was the palace of the Celestials, which was deep underwater. Our heroes found something unimaginable. The guys decided to look into the cave. Going inside, it looked like a temple, and then they noticed that as soon as they entered, the water all disappeared in the temple. There were remains that were about to turn into dust, because there was a very strong pressure in the room. Our heroes walked forward and looked around, and there was a spear stuck in the floor in front, which was very embarrassing for our hero. The black spear exuded danger, and the bones could belong to the slain monsters, Sun thought to himself, so he told Toothpick that they had to leave. The loach looked at its owner with horror, and the same one asked if the fish wanted to stay here, because there were remains everywhere, and they might not get out of here, because this spear kills everyone. Then the spear woke up, and the young man decided that it was time to leave. Grabbing a bone in his mouth, the fish and our hero ran away from the cave. After getting out alive, the loach tried to eat the bone, and the power of the spear from under the water tried to get our heroes. The young man did not understand what kind of power this spear had, since it could reach them directly from under the water. Here the toothpick, having eaten the bone, got his benefit, and our hero also wanted to get his own, because he was entitled to half. The vine began to crawl away from the hero, and he demanded his half of the force. Sitting in a pose and concentrating, the young man felt strength. A minute later, a peach the size of a grape appeared on his chest, and the trace on his stomach became much larger than this peach, but the hero understood that he felt better. While he was sitting on the ground and concentrating, Yun came up to him. She looked at the young man point blank, and opening her eyes, he asked how long she had been here. Yun, looking at the young man, confirmed the fact that the guy was practicing on the riverbank, and the harmful Kai did not affect him. The next moment, the girl was already asking to share with her the secret and the technique that the young man used. Sun said that it was not Yun's business, said that it was time for him to go, thinking to himself that the girl was nothing but problems. Then Yun ran after the guy who was rapidly moving away from her. Standing up and as if not interested, she said that she could exempt the young man from the tax for 3 months. This immediately interested the hero, and sparks sparkled in his eyes, asking what the girl wanted. The young man was ready for anything. Yun asked to find him good divers, because she needed to find a body. The young man was interested in what kind of body the girl wanted to find. Yun told the young man that the more people take part, the better. All participants will be exempt from paying tax for 3 months, and whoever finds the body will be exempt from tax for a whole year. The young man, looking at Yun, asked if she could be trusted. The girl asked to trust her, because now the village of Jihu was under her control. The hero decided to trust Yun and find divers for her. Throwing a jade talisman at the young man, she asked, as soon as the young man finds people, then immediately contact her with the help of this talisman. The hero thought to himself that the girl was stupid to the point of charm and he would become rich if he found the body. But in their village almost everyone earned a living with the help of the river. But since the girl is sincerely throwing money around, the young man asked her not to blame if she brings weaklings or old people. Taking the capsule again, the girl put the house down and decided that she would remove it as soon as she used it. The house stood in a mountainous area and then fire tigers flew by with a team and a girl came out of it, telling Yun that her palace could be seen a mile away, and that the girl loved to show off. It was her aunt and the girl was asking what she had forgotten in these parts. Approaching the girl, the aunt turned to the cute Ying Ying and asked to see how she grew up, which was very embarrassing for the girl. Then, telling Yun Ying Ying that she had already become quite big, the aunt asked and tried to find confirmation whether the girl had found a lover. After the jokes, Yun asked her aunt why she came here. Did this mean that Yun could not cope? The aunt replied that the matter was of particular importance, which is why she was sent here, asking Yun how the situation was. Since it was not so easy to establish contact with the village, Yun said she had to attract pearl seekers to search the river and reward them with tax exemption. Then her jade talisman lit up, and her aunt asked the girl to answer as soon as possible. The young man called Yun, standing near the river with his friend. Asking if everyone was there, the hero replied that it was so. The guys who were standing behind him were surprised at the wonders that they saw in front of them. A friend of our hero tried to ask if what Changming said was true. My aunt replied that it was absolutely true. They were from the Department of Public Administration and kept their word. If they manage to catch the body, they will double the reward. The young men thanked the lady for her answer. Continuing the conversation, Yun joined him, talking about the corpse that the guys would be looking for. The corpse was brought from the Man River, approximately had to be at the junction of the Man River and the Hongshui River, so they had to split up and search the mouth of the river. Then one of the young men reported that there were a lot of creatures in the river, and there was nothing left of the corpses after half a day. The girl had an answer to that, too. The corpse was unusual and the creatures wouldn't dare touch it. Our hero, hearing Yun's conversation with the young men who were supposed to be looking for him, thought that the corpse could not get from the Man River to the Hongshui River, unless the corpse of course could swim. At the same time, the young man immediately had a map of currents and 2 rivers in his head, which were discussed earlier in the conversation. The guys were about to leave to search, when suddenly they were stopped by a girl. Yun Ying Ying asked the young men to be careful and if something goes wrong, then immediately get ashore and report. She and her aunt will find a way to help. There were 2 guys who asked why they were not called if they worked in the Man River. The one standing behind his brother asked why our hero did not call him. Then a friend of our hero asked Jihu what he was doing here. Seeing the portal through which the lady communicated with everyone, both brothers bowed to her and said that it was impossible to do without their help here. Then the hero and his subordinates asked why someone else besides them had to participate in all this, because they came first. But Jiang replied that he was the only one in the whole village who did not go down this river man. The young men who appeared in front of our hero and his friends declared that our hero and his friends were good for nothing. Didn't they think about that? What will happen if they fail to fulfill the task of officials and they fail it? After all, they were entrusted with an important task, and they brought only their acquaintances here. Everyone considered it disgusting. Aunt looked at the girl and Yun thought to herself that the young man turned out to be unreliable. Sun also said that his friends had their strengths and success awaited them under his leadership, and our hero did not know where the guy he considered a clown came from. The young man who stood in front of our hero considered him a brat on whose lips the milk had not dried yet, and that he was going to climb into the Man River. It was funny, and he advised our hero to go to his mother. And, looking at the quarrel of the guys, said that whoever gets the body first will get the reward. Everyone crowded around the river. Changming's friend believed that he had disgraced the young man, but he believed that while Sun was here, Jihu and his friends would never be able to defeat them. Therefore, the hero smiled at the young man and asked him to forget about this situation. Everyone rushed into the water to find the body. Our hero first of all let a toothpick into the water. Their task was not easy, and therefore the young man decided to send a toothpick to protect Uncle Yeasa and the others. And Sun himself decided to observe everything that was happening from the shore so as not to interfere with the search for the body, because he attracted the best guys from the village who could find the body, and no one could interfere with them in this matter. Yun was sitting next to her aunt, who was sipping her drink in complete calm. Then Yun asked her aunt where this corpse actually came from, what all the guys were looking for in this river. Aunt, looking at the girl, asked her if she knew that in the upper reaches of the Man River there is a gorge of copper coffins. Yun knew about this gorge. Looking at her aunt, the girl told that this gorge is a well-known ruined territory of the Dingo residents. It includes an ancient battlefield, a cemetery of evil spirits, as well as other dangerous areas where spirits live. Yun answered looking at her aunt. My aunt added that there is a cliff in this gorge from which coffins hang. No one knows who hung them there, but in recent years the water level has risen. The coffins collapsed, and the remains fell into the Man River. People from his and Yun's department began to pull the remains out of the water, but somehow the ancient body disappeared, and no one from the department ever fished it out. If the ancient body continues to float further, it will certainly end up in the lands of Hushu. And if that happens, Yun added, then the entire autumn harvest will suffer, which will lead to a catastrophe. Aunt confirmed Yun's words, and therefore it was necessary to find this ancient body and fish it out of the Man River. Remembering the map, Yun involuntarily thought and voiced her thoughts to her aunt, because how could a corpse swim up against the flow of the Man River? The aunt replied that no one could find the corpse in the lower reaches, and therefore she decided to try her luck and search the tributary. The girl answered calmly. Yun, thinking to herself, realized that there was a possibility that the corpse was still not in the river, and then the villagers could be in danger. Our hero was sitting, concentrating on the river bank and watching what was happening under the water through a toothpick. Everyone was swimming forward, and then our hero felt that the guys were in danger. A monster was swimming behind them. Our hero asked the toothpick to stop the monster, and he bit him by the tail, but this did not stop the monster, and he saw the loach and began to attack the fish. After that, a giant worm jumped out of the water and was seen by a surprised Yun. This demon, according to my aunt, was the number 1 in the magic of the first rank. He possesses 5 types of magic, which is more than twice as much as ordinary creatures of the first rank. Even a second rank creature could be escaped alive. But now the villagers were in great danger. Then the worm began to bleed and went to the bottom. Aunt was surprised that someone managed to kill him, and she thought that there were monsters of the second rank in the river. Then Yun decided to ask a question about the monsters of the second rank and how strong they were compared to the monsters of the first and other ranks. The first great realm of the spiritual body. The pyramid of the first great kingdom was divided into 6 levels: spiritual energy, spiritual channels, spiritual points, miraculous symbols, subjugation of phenomena, and comprehension of valuable things. All these levels were present in the pyramid. My aunt explained that the first great realm of perfection is called the realm of the spiritual body, and most monks are in this realm. The second largest kingdom is also divided into 6 levels and is called the Kingdom of Blazing Light. Monsters of the second rank correspond to a monk of the second kingdom. She possessed the same second kingdom as the senior in rank in the Chaosian department. Yun, on the other hand, believed that the monster was too dangerous and she had to request armor from the government from the essence of evil influences and personally descend into the water. Then my aunt thought it was too early. Even such armor did not protect against harmful kai in the water, and even more so from monsters of the second rank. The young men began to slowly get out of the water to the shore. One of the young men reported, addressing the lady, that he could search in the Man River, and the rest should go back to the village. Sun heard the conversation and asked the young man to wait, because he went with him. Hearing this, he tried to stop the guy and asked not to waste his life in vain. Yun also believed that the young man should not have gone into the river, because there were monsters of the second rank and even Sun could not cope with him. Our hero, full of strength, asked the girl not to worry, because he was much stronger than her and therefore he would be fine. To himself, our hero was thinking about a monster that was no longer the first of the second rank, which he had to kill, so he was not afraid and he had nothing to lose. The aunt, addressing the young man, said that if he did not return, they would take care of his sister. The same remembered the beating of his sister and thought that the organization would only suffer if it took care of her. Rolling up his trousers, the young man went to the river and sank to the bottom. Yun silently wished for the young man's speedy return in one piece. At this time, monsters attacked the hero, but the toothpick, scaring everyone away, rushed to attack the snakes that were getting close to our hero and bit each one by the tail. Our hero asked the toothpick to return to his place. Zubastick and our hero swam together. The bindweed, having eaten too much, barely moved, and our hero asked him to be careful, because the bindweed, according to him, was very voracious. The fish was sick from any movements, but gathering his strength, he transferred energy to the guy. Sun was delighted with the skills of the toothpick that he could transfer energy to the hero himself, without his orders or without the need. Feeling the energy, the young man thought about the monsters of the first rank, which brought a lot of benefits. After practicing in the water, while no one was around, our hero decided to concentrate. And once the practice was over, he had to get down to business, which had been waiting for our hero for a long time. Floating on the bottom of the river, the young man thought that he had been looking for the body for half an hour and could not find it in any way. No clues, nothing. Could it really have been eaten after all? The guy decided, no longer distinguishing anyone around. Then suddenly he heard a strange sound. In front of him was someone's hand that was sticking out from under the tentacles of an unknown creature. In front of him was a huge octopus with a lot of eyes and very long tentacles. In its tentacles, the dragon held one of the young men who had finished their work earlier. The guy was wrapped in the tentacles of an octopus and tried to escape from them, but he couldn't do anything. He just plaintively floundered in the air while the octopus was studying him. Such a picture appeared before our hero when he once again swam along the bottom of the solution and suspected that it was actually not so. The battle between the young man and the octopus resumed again, and the guy tried his best to escape from under the octopus. The young man believed that he would die here, after seeing the octopus open its mouth. At that moment the bindweed attacked the octopus with its strength, and the young man whom the octopus was holding earlier went safely to the bottom. Our hero arrived in time and managed to save the guy who was rapidly falling down. The hero grabbed the young man and he thought that he had been saved. Yun and Ant watched from the side, and Ant's opinion about the young man was that for her the guy was not bad at all. Yun thought that, fortunately, she was safe and sound. The young man was already standing on the bank of the river, reporting to a friend that the poison was non-fatal and he only paralyzed. But it was necessary to take it back to the village. Otherwise the sun would set. After these words, Yun climbed out of the portal and asked if everything was alright with the young man. The hero replied that everything was fine with him, but Jihu was attacked by a monster. The young man was lucky that there was a stronger monster on that monster, and he saved the guy, taking advantage of the moment. The ant asked the hero if he had seen anything else in the Man River. Then the young man replied that he had not seen anything, and he doubted that there was anything in it. Therefore, tomorrow it was necessary to search the river. Yun thanked the young man for his help and asked him to take care of himself. The young man told Yun about that her house, as it seemed to him, had become even more luxurious, and in the evening it was impossible to lose vigilance. The ant was interested in the young man's words about vigilance, and she asked the girl what it meant. Then she explained that monsters were walking around in this village at night, and once she was almost crushed. Therefore, the girl smiled and said that they were digging a hole for sleeping. After listening to the girl, the ant asked her to forget about the pit. After all, they could look for a decent cave, while she covered her face with embarrassment. Evening, Sun Changming's house. The sister was delighted with the meat that her brother brought her, and she was very grateful to him, devouring the whole dish. The hero asked if it was delicious for her, and smiling at his sister, our hero thought that he had worked hard today. His sister's smile proved this to the naked hero. While the young man was sitting, he was thinking that from today he and Zubastik searched the entire Man River, and except for one place, it was too dangerous, as our hero believed. Could this corpse be in the lair of a giant turtle? With these words, he looked at the cave in front of him. At this moment, the guy was thinking about the toothpick, which he did not have time to take home, and now the fish was sleeping outside the house. The guy hoped that everything was fine with her. The toothpick was just swimming and digesting his food. Then our hero felt the power, and it was like the toothpick digested the monster. Evening came, and all the evil spirits were heading to the legendary hill through the daughter of Jihu. Yun said that this hill has always been a creepy place. Could the disappearance of the corpse be related to this? The two girls were sitting and discussing it at the foot of the mountain at dawn when they were noticed by a shadow. Jihu's house. The young man was lying in his house and resting after swimming deep distances. He looked very tired and at the same time calm in his sleep after a long day. The shadow that had previously been watching the young girls and her aunt entered his house and placed a box near his bed while he was sleeping. The next day our hero was full of energy and was ready to dive into the water. Several people were watching him, and one of them believed that Xiao's son was still very young, but already so strong. Watching the young man dive into the water, others were discussing Jihu on the shore, who was unlucky this time. Someone said that the young man had severe poisoning and it was still unknown when he would get back on his feet after yesterday's swims. Jihu woke up at home at that moment, and he did not expect at all that this brat's son Changming had become so strong and also saved Jiang's life. The young man thought that he had to thank our hero tomorrow and thought about telling everyone to follow Sun tomorrow. Thinking about this, the young man came across a box that lay in front of him. This box was the one that left a shadow, and the young man, of course, did not remember about it. So surprised, he decided to open it. A black shadow escaped from it and made its way into the young man's body. Looking at the box through the guy's eyes, it was already empty, and the hero was thinking that why on earth should Sun Changming get all the best. Looking at the box, Jiang did not want some kid to become a threat to his authority in the village, so he wanted to take everything away from the young man. In front of him lay a mask made of human skin. With it you could breathe underwater. The Godslayer crossbow killed everyone below the second realm. Miracle pills of freedom dramatically increase strength. With the help of them, even an ordinary person can raise 3 levels. Taking the box, he decided that he would see how long Sun Changming would laugh at him. Our hero continued to swim underwater, and then suddenly he saw that the toothpick had gained 1.5 kilograms, although the young man had not seen him all night. At this moment, they were swimming up to the lair of a giant turtle, which looked very unfriendly. Sun noticed that the cold there was not the same as in the village. There should have been a lot of interesting things inside. And thinking to themselves that the toothpick was not greedy, they swam. The vine stopped, and our hero crashed right into him, asking why he suddenly stopped in the middle of the way. Then the young man, looking forward, saw what surprised him, and there hung the body of a half-human, half-animal that held a stone in his hands. It was the third eye. The hero, seeing that the toothpick is afraid, decided to go first to check. Approaching the corpse, the young man noticed a blue fire on it, right on the chest. It looked like the corpse was struggling with this flame. Then the corpse began to burn with Kai energy, and our hero involuntarily wondered if it could be that this third eye was perfecting Kai. The creeper wanted to swim to the corpse, but our hero stopped him. There was such an opportunity, and Toothy wanted to intervene. They needed to inform the Chaosian department, and they themselves would then deal with this corpse. Vijun, of course, did not want to take part in this. Then the young man decided to come up with something so that the delicious bindweed would not disappear if he told everyone. At first, the hero decided that he and Nibbler could get up, but then something attacked him, very quickly, that the young man could hardly manage to defend himself with his tortoiseshell shield. The young man did not understand what it was. The vine took advantage of the situation and ate the power that attacked our hero. Jiang was angry that he couldn't kill anyone with the crossbow he got. However, Sun Changming, Jiang thought that he had discovered his secret, and he was wondering what they would say in the Chaosian department when they found out that the young man was friends with monsters and swam up. Sun realized that someone had seen the power of the toothpick, and this person could not just let go. When the stranger turned to face our hero, the guy saw Jiang, who was trying to attack him with a knife. The young man, if he had known about this scenario, would not have saved the guy. Having prevented his attack on himself, Sun grabbed Jiang's arm so that he could not attack him, and then attacked him himself, so much so that the guy flew far down. In front of our hero was a mask and a bottle with incomprehensible contents. Sun wondered where Jihu got such curiosities. Approaching the toothpick, he asked him to see if there was anything else. Nibbler swam to see if there was anything left. Feeling the power, our hero realized that the toothpick had already eaten something. In his head he saw the prophecies of the killer god, and deciding that he did not need it, he returned back to the toothpick. The young man asked the bindweed not to get close to the corpse, so that it would not harm him. Zubastic decided to stay to guard the corpse, and our hero wanted to go upstairs to tell about his find. As soon as the young man surfaced from under the water, a guy from the village immediately rushed to him, asking if the young man was okay and how things were down below. Sun replied that everything was fine with him, and today he found nothing again, so he decided to see what would happen tomorrow. Leaving the toothpick downstairs, our hero went to bed. Night had fallen, and the creeper was guarding the corpse they had found. But when the hero woke up, he felt alarm. It was anxiety for the toothpick. The fish saw a shadow next to the corpse, and our hero asked the Nibbler to be calm, and then scout the situation. But then a terrible monster appeared in front of him, looking like a devil. The monster took the ancient corpse under control, and seeing the spreading power, the monster wanted to devour this corpse. The flame that was on the ancient corpse was to seal it. That's why this devil suddenly attacked like that. Looking at all this from the side, the toothpick voiced his thoughts to our hero, and he was surprised to learn that the toothpick wanted to eat the shadow of the devil. The shadow was like a spiritual body, and the youth had an ability aimed at spiritual bodies, and our heroes decided to try. Swimming closer to the shadow, the toothpick, using his power, began to absorb it. After absorbing, the shadow was still alive and resisted inside the toothpick. The young man was afraid that the fish could get really bad and asked the toothpick to spit out the shadow, but he came to himself as if nothing had happened. The hero was glad that everything was fine. Then he felt that a new meaning began to emerge on his forehead. After absorbing the devil's shadow, he received energy and the symbol on his forehead turned into a seal. His soul became stronger thanks to the light of the ancient lamp that stood in front of the young man. The seal on the forehead must have corresponded to the power of the soul. Perhaps this seal was something like a buff. Our hero did not think that by swallowing the devil's shadow he would get so much benefit. He was wondering what he would get by swallowing his body. The devil, crawling out of the cave without energy, did not understand what it was, because the guy absorbed 3 of his clones. He was still alive, but he couldn't control them, because he was completely exhausted after the fight with our hero. Nibbler and our hero saw that the body of the corpse was no longer moving. It seems to have used up too much flame during the fight with that devil. The bindweed decided to swim closer and look at the flames that held back the corpse, after which it absorbed this flame. The hero was sitting and concentrating, when suddenly a new symbol was formed. He didn't think that he and Nibbler would benefit from someone else's conflict. Not only were they able to absorb the flames, but they also found a corpse, and tomorrow the hero decided that he had reported him. There was no limit to his happiness and the guy was smiling all over his mouth. From now on, Sun decided not to worry about the tax and finally it would be possible to leave this village. Then his attention was attracted by the crowd that was standing not far from him. Approaching, the hero asked about the search, which today, as it seemed to him, would not be. His friend said that the young man came just in time, because they were going to look at the government's magic weapons. The young man jumped up to see at least something and there was Yun in new armor. Seeing the armor, our hero shone, because he was very interested in what kind of things the girl was wearing. Aunt Yun said that it was an armor against evil influences. It protected from harmful Kai underwater for a short time. Yun saw Sun Changming and ran up to the young man asking him how he liked her armor. The guy complimented that the armor was beautiful and asked where the girl got them. Yun, showing the weapon, said that the armor was given to her by the army. And this is the weapon of the army of the kingdom of Wu, the cry of the wolf. He is capable of injuring a monster of the 2nd rank, Yun explained to our hero. She also had a Vajra talisman. It activated on a critical hit, releasing the radiance of the Vajra spirits, capable of stopping the attack of the 2nd Great Kingdom. The hero, looking at all these items, asked why Yun needed such equipment. And, looking at the young man with the girl, told Sun that there are monsters of the 2nd rank in the river. They guessed that the corpse was in the territory of monsters, so they requested equipment to fight them. Yun took the guy by the hands and said that today she would go down with him under the water and protect him from any danger. The young man melted from her kindness, because it was the first time he felt good since he was here. Yun asked him to follow her, and he obediently agreed. Then it dawned on the young man, if they dive into the water with her, then Yun may find out that he lied to her and then he will be arrested for defrauding the government. The hero's plan was falling apart, and he decided to ask Yun to stay on shore. Sun believed that the girl should take care of herself and it would be better if Sun went alone. The girl talked about the fact that the young man did not dare to belittle her. But our hero didn't mean that at all and then told Yun that she couldn't go with him. The guys started arguing, and all the residents gathered to look at them, because they were quarreling like a married couple. Yun suspected the hero that he was hiding something. The guards heard this and thought that there was something wrong with the hero. Then Sun decided to use the last trump card. Taking Yun by the hands, he told her that he had a secret. The girl was embarrassed and looked at him with apprehension. Then Sun, leaning closer, whispered to her that he loved her. Gently hugging the girl around the waist, he showed her his feelings. The girl was very surprised at the young man's confession. The soldiers were angry and wanted the guy to stop keeping secrets with their commander in front of their very eyes. The girl thought that they had known each other for only 2 days, although she thought Sun was cute, but it was impossible to talk about her feelings so immediately. Our hero continued to play his role and told Yun that he, being a man, could not allow her to risk her life. Therefore, he thought it would be enough if he went alone. The young man asked not to worry about him, but just let him put on this equipment that Yun was wearing. Taking the girl by the hand, he gently told her that if he put on this outfit, he would feel that she was next to him and thus his success would be guaranteed. Sun Changming put on the equipment and looked great in it, but felt even better. Taking the weapon in his hands that Yun had earlier, he asked the girl not to worry about him. Yun also asked the guy to be careful. After that, our hero went to the river and, being fully equipped, dived. The vine saw its owner coming down to him and the young man began to explain to him the plan according to which they would act. The plan sounded like this: the hero would attack the toothpick. He would make a fuss, and then they would take the corpse together. The bindweed looked at our hero and the guy realized that the toothpick still wanted to eat this corpse. After hitting the vine, the young man explained that if they did not return the corpse, they would have problems. The vine floated up and they began to play out the scenario that they had discussed earlier. Sun had a weapon that Yun had given him and he decided to try it out on a bindweed. Pretending to fight, everyone saw only a splash of water from the river and then traces of blood. Auntie and Yun watched what was happening, and then Auntie noticed that the young man used the cry of a wolf. Yun believed that success or failure depended on this. Yun, looking at the splashes of water, hoped that everything was fine with Sun. Then a whirlpool swirled in the water. Ant saw a lot of blood and believed that the young man had caught a giant creature. Yun was worried that nothing was visible. Then the head of our hero appeared out of the water. A friend of his waved to Sun from the ground and shouted that the guy had succeeded. Sun was dragging the corpse that was mentioned earlier. Putting him on the ground, the hero reported that the corpse had been successfully delivered. The ant ordered the body to be taken immediately by 2 guards who are not far from her. They brought the coffin and placed the body in it. The ant turned to the young man and praised him for the work he had done. Then she decided to ask if the hero was interested in their squad, Kaoshin. The young man began to doubt, when suddenly the woman came closer and explained to the guy that then he would be given the position of officer responsible for the village of Jihu. If that happened, she and her sister would never worry about food and clothes, the ant said. Our hero began to think about everything to himself, thinking first of all about the fish, which was supposed to like this idea. After that, he decided to agree, bowing to the woman. She threw him an amulet and told him that the young man was now under the command of Yun Nying. Yun, hearing this, blushed with embarrassment.